It certainly has subsided, Fitzgibbon. It's actually not a bad morning. A couple of guys here, the heavy hitters, who were quite pleased to see that study that fat people live just as long as slim people. That's what we like.
I didn't need a study to tell me that.
And we have less chance of heart disease, gentlemen. Beats me, but I'll keep eating the cheeseburgers. Peter Cadges of the Boston Phoenix, Cosmo Macero of O'Neill Associates. See the movie 300 recently, Cosmo? Good one. You should check that one out. Inside joke. Let's get started with a not-so-funny story, boys, which is that Albert Arroyo, the firefighter from Boston, who was fired because while out on disability, he was in bodybuilding competitions. He won in court yesterday, Cosmo. He was acquitted of fraud charges. Just when I think I've seen everything in a courtroom, a la Casey Anthony, here comes another one to make me go, wow.
Yeah, that's another jury that will have you scratching your head. It immediately has me wondering what range of options that opens up for him in taking action against the city, and what that means in terms of opening a can of worms for future cases. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me in terms of the facts of the case. It seems pretty obvious. If you got a set of eyes, he appears certainly fit to hold a clipboard, certainly fit to lift a piece of paper as a inspector. Nonetheless, the facts as the jury saw them suggested that indeed he was in the right. So I think it's certainly not a victory for the city, and it definitely raises concern about what his options are. So I think a lot of people are disappointed today, and rightfully so.
Great front page from the Herald calling the jury dumbbells, Peter. The problem is the jury was dumbbells, and they actually were able to rule this one.
Yeah. my aching back. All I can figure is that it was a very simple sort of chemistry thing, that the jury liked Arroyo more than they liked the prosecutor. And let me go from there a little bit. I'm wondering how much of this was a reaction against possible federal overkill. Why was this case in federal court? Listen, this whole thing...
Well, it was a mail fraud case.
A mail fraud case. I'll tell you, I think that the jury was overreacting to trying to take out a flea with the sledgehammer of the federal government.
You're giving them too much credit. One of the jurors said, we've all had ailments. I mean, what kind of rationale is that?
I don't know. It mystifies me. It really, really mystifies me.
If you're the mayor of Boston, Cosmo, or if you're the head of the firefighters, I mean, do you even bother trying to terminate someone for any reason anymore?
I think you say, what do you have to do to get people to follow the rules here? What do you have to do to instill sort of, proper procedure and following the rules of a system that is routinely abused, like putting in for disability, right?
Well,
disability fraud is rampant. Here's a case, hey, we got someone red-handed. Here's an example. Let's make an example, and you can't even make an example of a guy in a bodybuilding competition
with a bad back
on video saying he's got a bad back, and whose job did not even require climbing a ladder or rescuing people.
You know what I'd like to know from that jury? Are they in favor of government waste? How many on the jury, might be sympathetic to the Tea Party or something? I'm just curious. I'd love to know their political attitudes. I come back to that they voted for the individual against the system. And once again, I think this shows it's a small example, but it's an example of the rot that we have in our public system.
It all gets back to Caddyshack, Cosmo. You're going to have a lot of firefighters going, oh, my arm! Didn't hit your other arm? My other arm!
That might be a fracture.
Yeah. All right, let's talk politics for a second. Barack Obama in Iowa yesterday, part of his 3-day bus tour, his magical misery tour, as Mitt Romney called it.
Speaking of, I like the idea of the urban assault vehicle.
$1 million bus.
You got the president with Dewey Oxberger and Francis barnstorming across the Midwest. Hey, you touch Obama, you touch me, and I'll kill you, right? But I think it's not all it's cracked up to be for the president, especially when, as you said off the air, he's got a record now, and the recent record isn't a lot of fun. So he's got a lot of accountability to own up to, and I think
a little different than 4 years ago.
And I think he's going to, 4 or 6 months ago, and I think he's going to be hearing about it on this little tour of his.
He said in Iowa yesterday that he had reversed the recession, Peter, but then they had some bad luck. Can you tell me the month that the recession had been reversed?
Well, I think he overstated the case.
Yeah.
They hadn't reversed the recession. There is a lot of evidence that it would have been a lot worse had it not been for the inadequate stimulus. But listen,
So limiting the damage now qualifies as reversing the recession. I don't even buy the limiting the damage.
No, I didn't think you would. But I do think that the federal action did limit the damage. Listen, this whole bus tour, save us from bus tours. My God, Sarah Palin has a bus tour.
Rick Perry has a bus tour.
Everyone's got a bus tour. Geez, does my trip up to Maine on the weekends on the bus, am I taking a bus tour? Crowds don't meet me when I get off at Bath. But anyway, this is a placeholder. He has to do something to get out of Washington, which is a poisonous city. I think it's a pretty lame placeholder, but it's better than nothing.
One thing the bus tour tells us is I guess he won't be calling Congress back. So there you go. Hey, I only got a minute left. I'm going to skip Rick Perry. We'll get to him next week. In the meantime, you saw the story out of Stoughton. The guy that lives in Mississippi drives 1,500 miles to get 150 pizzas from Stoughton because he says he can't get good pizza in Mississippi. You guys are guys that, A, I know love this guy, but B, have probably been in similar circumstances. Have you ever gone to great lengths, Cosmo, for a certain food that you just had to have?
Well, before you go electing Rick Perry president, you can't get steak tips in Texas. I got good friends living in Texas, love good New England steak tips, can't get them. And they come back here to get steak, strips of sirloin, you marinate them, you grill them. Can't get them down there. They come up here, so there's one steak.
I think he's avoiding the question.
No, I can't get them. What do you mean, son? Steak.
You've had this pizza in Stoughton, by the way.
It's amazing. Our milkman used to deliver that pizza. It's amazing pizza. You heat it up, put it in the oven. It's beautiful. But steak tips can't get them in Texas. People come up here to get them.
Yeah, before I was married, I used to, every now and then I'd go to Flo's Dogs, just up in Maine. Right. Sometimes I'd go to Red's Eats up in Maine, and sometimes I'd go to St. Bartholomew Social Club in Providence for a nice bowl of steaming hot tripe.
Oh, Peter catches it.
BB, I saw the trailer for 300, a lot of glistening, quasi-nude men. Your kind of movie.
Steak tips, yay. Tripe, not so much. They're the heavy hitters. We'll take a break. Much more do we come back to?
Your kind.